Serious? People who have been clinically dead and brought back to life. What was your experience? When I was 10 years old, I fell from the roof of our house and landed on my head. I was in and out of consciousness on the way to the hospital via ambulance. When I recovered, they said I was legally dead at one point at the hospital, but they revived me with paddles after 5 minutes. I remember nothing at all, only the darkness of a deep dreamless sleep. The headache when I came to was unbearable. I was extremely lucky not to have any major spinal damage from the fall. Just a huge lump on my head that went away after about a week. No other injuries. Aside from the experience everyone really talks about when they are dying, while they think it is what they experience when they are actually dead, such as seeing a light or loved ones, there was absolutely nothing. No sense of calm, no darkness, nothing. One moment I was dying and seeing things, and the next I was coming back alive. I don't remember a thing. I had a pretty traumatic experience before I died that I would prefer not to revisit. When I came back, it was like waking up from a long nap. Nothing in between. It is scary but also a bit comforting. It all depends on your perspective. Pretty uneventful. I shot dope, got really high, then dropped to the floor. My friends packed my groin with ice cubes and took turns punching me in the face, but I just lay there, unresponsive. EMT saved me. I almost certainly suffered some amount of brain damage, as I was gone for several minutes. There was no bright light, nothing noteworthy. I'm convinced that when you go, you're worm food, no fancy cosmic procession. The paramedics treated me like human garbage after I came back, and for most of the ambulance ride to the hospital. They treated me like an actual person once I was lucid enough to be articulate. All I could think of was my mother. If I had stayed dead, she would have perished from grief. Last time I ever stuck a needle in my arm. About 13 years ago. My nana was declared dead for a couple of minutes. She says she doesn't remember anything other than pitch black. Cardiac arrhythmia led to full cardiac arrest. I got dizzy, then nothing, woke up in resus. Wish I could say there was any substance there, but nope. With the amount of people talking about peace after death, I feel obligated to remind some of us out there, you're not alone. Suicide is not the answer. There are people that care about you and things do get better. It's not my story, but my dad died from a heat attack and came back. He said he felt really cold, then he was floating for about a minute, then he felt like he fell 5 feet, then jolted back to see my mom pushing on his chest. My best friend was hit head on by a drunk driver. He states he does remember the 10-minute ambulance ride to the hospital, but then he coded in the trauma room. He heard a voice claiming to be his grandma talking to him. He never met her as she passed before he was born. They said they were about to call it when they got a pulse back. I have clinically died and been revived 3 times in a span of 30 years. This question has been asked before. The answer is nothing. There is no shining light, there is no tunnel aside from the slow process of blacking out. There simply isn't anything. Lights went off, lights slowly came back on. I've actually had a person essentially calling me a liar because I told them this. It was insane the lengths people will go to in order to reinforce their programming, no matter what is factually true. Hearing from people that were clinically dead that death feels euphoric. That's great, but I just want to see my deceased friends and family members again. Was pledging a fraternity where they do hazings, paddling you, melting wax on your entire body, punching you anywhere, and after all of it, blacked out, woke up hanging upside down, my nail being bit, 5th nail to be bit, chili peppers on my neck, calamansi, like lime lemon, in my mouth. Was told I didn't have pulse for like 30 seconds or so and wasn't breathing. The feeling of it was nothing. It was black. The waking up part hurts your head though when you're upside down and don't know what the fuck's happening. My grandma was presumed dead for about 3 minutes and she had told me that it was at first black, then she saw a light and there was a voice. It sounded like her father who passed away late 80s early 90s, and he said not yet, and my grandma woke up to my grandpa slapping her to wake her up. Me and her both thought at the last part to this day. It felt amazing. Like I was floating and didn't have to worry about anything. It was like creative mode on Minecraft. I didn't know I was dead, but I knew something was up. Waking up felt weird because my family and friends were there telling me how worried they were and the sadness they felt, but I was sad to be away from the place I was. I wish I enjoyed it more, but at the time I didn't think about, so I really couldn't have. I'm not that afraid of death anymore, but it doesn't mean I'll kill myself to go back to where I was. I do remember leaving the hospital and my first thought was fuck, I have to pay rent. Basically what everyone is saying. Ain't no light at the end, just a good fucking nap. And waking up wondering where the fuck my underwear went. It's exactly like before you were born. I've been going through a serious existential crisis for a few years now. Not really religious, but I have to say that all of these posts have really made me more calm about the unknown. Is there a god? Are we in a simulation? Doesn't matter. Reading about the peaceful nothingness everyone is experiencing is very pleasant to me. Nothingness. No sensation. I didn't felt any terror or pain. I didn't felt any joy nor peace. It was sure strange. The only thing that I barely remember is a pair of blue eyes gazing at me in a way. I don't remember much of it. I do remember the incredible pain all over when they brought me back. The tears of my father. Since then I truly believe there is something above all of us. Not a god for sure, but something ready to watch over us afterward. There are very different answers throughout the thread. Some saw light, some made choice, some felt nothing. Life and death really is a strange phenomenon. Funny I should see this. I'm watching a show called The OA right now and dying for a few minutes then being brought back to life is a major premise of the show. It's on Netflix and it's really good, you all should watch it. Edit, in the show, they each had separate, but seemingly connected, visions and then came back to life with a new skill. Apparently this isn't unheard of in real life. I was dead a couple times from drowning. 45 minutes and an hour, respectively. The only thing that waits beyond death is oblivion. Try to remember what happened to you for the 13.8 billion years that went by before you were born. What's that? It's a black, timeless nothingness that didn't inconvenience you in any way? Exactly. Oblivion. Enjoy what you have, because it's all you're going to get. Try your best not to hurt anyone else along the way, yeah? I attempted suicide in college. I saw nothing, but to be fair, I don't remember going to the hospital or being revived or anything, and just heard about it secondhand. I remember collapsing and then was just kind of in the hospital on suicide watch, with nothing in between that period. I drowned very briefly after I was knocked into a swimming pool when I was maybe 4/5. I remember the surface of the water getting further and further away, then I came to on the side of the pool surrounded by people. I wasn't really dead, since I was awake and remember everything. But, I was a NICU and what they did to me caused me so much pain that I went into shock, I guess. All I know is that they said I had no pulse. The one nurse asked how I felt and I said great, does that mean I'm dying? And her look said yes. So, I went from the worst pain ever to total peace and no pain. They were going to put the paddles on me, and I said get going heart, and it did. Then, all the friggin' pain came back. I wasn't flatlining but I was almost choked to death. I got in an argument with some guy who didn't take it well. I saw my eyes getting darker around me and shit felt good. There was just a calming feeling and I didn't really worry about it. Since then I learned to not really give a fuck. I got some pretty funny stories about that. English isn't my first language and I am writing this on mobile. Hearing these from people makes me think of something. The darkness that these people might have seen. It might have been the place that, what I like to call, before the veil. I like to think that, while it might be called purgatory, there is a veil that separates purgatory from the afterlife. You can go to the afterlife and be dead, like really dead, as in you can't go back, or you can stay in purgatory and go back. You eventually have to go beyond the veil. It's sort of enlightening if you ask me. I love everyone's replies here. Makes me feel a bit better. My father died for about 5 minutes. He said he saw blue. He couldn't remember much because he was fucking dead. All the people saying there was nothing. Did you feel some sort on conscience or just remember nothing when you're trying to think of it? I have no idea whether this qualifies, but here we go. A few years ago I was on some festival where some company was celebrating some anniversary. I was standing close to a podium before I started kneeling. I started walking with my family out of there before everything blacked out and I fell. Apparently while they were carrying me my lips turned blue, but thankfully I woke up a bit later and I was okay. Turns out I hadn't drunk almost anything that and the previous day. Half my frickin' face was destroyed by a shotgun's shell to the face. I got robbed. I was pronounced clinically dead in the hospital. 3 hours later I woke up. While I was dead all I remembered was me sitting in a black void waiting to go to heaven hell for what felt like days. My only company was Jeff, my old teddy bear. We talked about life and what else I could have done. It was nice catching up. His skinless face was odd though, but let me tell you, waking up, my sister was definitely shocked when I woke up and asked, "Is this heaven?" with my half destroyed mangled face. I read so much comments and everyone says that they only were seeing black. Is there someone who saw a person or something when they were clinically dead? I got hit by a car while on my bicycle when I was 9. I'm not sure exactly what procedures were used, but I was told I was dead for several minutes. I had a massive concussion, teeth knocked out, and spent like a week in recovery at the hospital. I remember I was riding back from the store, then I woke up confused in the hospital. Absolutely nothing in between at all. I don't even remember being hit, the CPR, the ambulance, or anything else. The doctor said that was completely normal. Basically it takes a bit for short-term memory to move to long-term, so in sudden accidents where you are knocked out no data gets transferred, it just gets deleted. Well, clinically dead means brain dead. I sound anyone brain dead has ever come back to life. A stopped heartbeat is called dead by many people, but you aren't dead until the brain stops working. If it stops, there ain't coming back. When I was born, one of my feet went through my mom's uteral wall, sending her into shock, which caused me to follow. She and I were both legally dead for 7 minutes until the doctor could resuscitate us. All my mom said was that it felt like she had taken a deep nap. I don't remember, of course, as I was only 7 minutes old. All of these people didn't actually die, they just went unconscious due to lack of oxygen to the brain. Only after 6 minutes of heart stoppage does the brain begin to die, and if they do come back after 6 minutes of cardiac failure, they will have severe brain trauma and won't be able to tell a story. You cannot come back from true death as the brain can no longer function and is dead. When I was choked or knocked unconscious in wrestling, I experienced all of the feelings these people described. Peace, blackness, loss of time, no stress, but at no point was I dead. My brain just didn't have any oxygen. This is the first time I read all comments on a post. For some reason I can't stop thinking that one day I will die, and I fucking hate this. I just can't accept that one day I will die. I cry sometimes. No homo-s, because I'm afraid what will happen, what I will see. I'm just not ready and I will never be. Edit, typos. Lol. I was never diagnosed, but I felt my heart stop and restart after I suffered a head injury while playing goalie when I was around 7 or 8. It was incredibly terrifying and confusing. My tiny brain couldn't comprehend what had happened and why I felt cold and then warm again. I got up around 10 seconds after I hit the goal post with little to no memory of the save or of what I had done for the previous minutes. Luckily I didn't suffer permanent damage from that concussion. No clue, I was too young to remember. I was born dead with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. The doctor had to act fast to resuscitate me. Or some, I'm told from my mom. Was revived once as a child at 12 years old. All I remember is waking up with my father next to my bed hugging me and me asking what happened. He told me 10 years later when he said I should go to the hospital for Crohn's disease because he was scared he would have to watch again with no guarantee I'd come back. I wasn't eating, drinking or getting out of bed at the time. I drowned in a swimming pool. I remember how I fell into the pool and what I was wearing. I remember trying to climb the ladder to get out of the pool and slipping back in. It was very cold in the water. Then I remember waking up 3 days later in the hospital. I don't recall being scared or hurt, just pissed that I didn't make it up the ladder because my coat was too heavy. As far as being dead goes, nothing. There was nothing, and then there was me awake. I died from a bacterial infection. I'd been on hardcore IV antibiotics for about 24 hours, but it wasn't doing it yet. I remember a feeling of the most wonderful nothing. No sensations, no warm cold, no pain, just nothing, and it was intoxicating. Then I saw the light everyone talks about and I was being pulled towards it somehow. I thought I had a conscious thought that I wasn't ready to die. Woke up to my friend leaning over me, hitting every button and bell on the bed, freaking out.